Someone asked me if I would do a video about the foreclosure process once the bank takes it back at the courthouse steps. In other words, no third party bids high enough or bids at all and the bank gets the property back by default. What happens next? What's the process and time frames? Because one of the questions I get a lot is how long is it going to take before the property hits the market? And that's something I never know because every corporate seller is a little bit different. But in this video, I'm going to go over the process because that's going to be generally the same for our clients. And hopefully, after watching this video to the end, you're going to have a better idea of the process and why it can take a little while before the property ends up hitting the market. Now, some clients are faster than others. Some have different policies and they have different investors involved they have to get approvals for, and all that takes time. But let's go over the steps, exactly what happens when a bank takes the property back. Okay, the very first thing that's going to happen is once the seller is notified that they have the property back or they won the property at the courthouse steps, through the auction process. Once they're notified, they're generally going to first try to find an agent and assign the property to that agent. The one thing you've got to remember here in Florida, we have 10 days before the county will issue a certificate of title. So until the seller gets their certificate of title, they do not legally own the property. Now, they have clauses in the mortgage where they can secure the property and, change locks and make sure they protect and secure the property, but they can't really do anything else. And this property I'm at right now is a perfect example, and I'm going to show you exactly what happens and kind of some of the downfalls or negatives of waiting or having to wait for 10 days, or if the county's busy, it can take even longer than 10 days. So the bank can't do anything until they get that certificate of title, except rekey the property like I have here and get pictures and valuations and stuff. But you'll see no trash outs, no repairs, generally no utilities unless it's needed to keep the property maintained until they get their certificate of title, which is probably the most important step. Another point I want to make, a majority of all these corporate sellers are going to be handling these properties, these foreclosures, through different platforms, websites. That's where us agents do all our values, upload all the documents, pictures, inspection reports, contracts, expenses. Everything's done through the platform. So rarely do we talk to these asset managers or to these companies directly without going through the platform. It's not the norm. So what generally happens in the very beginning is the agent's going to get an email saying you have a new property assignment. Normally that's going to be followed up by a private message or email through the system from either the asset manager or somebody within the company telling you, hey, I just assigned you this property, can you handle it for me? Now remember, at this point, the seller still has no legal right to the property because they don't have a certificate of title. So the very first thing that we're going to be tasked to do, in these platforms, we all have tasks. And the very first task besides, well, let me start over there. The very first task is going to be accepting the property assignment. The second task is going to be signing and e-signing their referral agreement. Now, one thing most people don't understand, these corporate sellers, they almost all have some real estate company they own in a certain state. Maybe it's Utah, Colorado, or California, but they all own a real estate company so they can charge the listing agents a referral fee. And that's the second thing that we sign is the referral fee. And that's anywhere from 25% up to 35%. One of my biggest clients just up there is a 35%. So if I make a minimum $1,000 check on a crappy little house, they're going to take $350 of it, so I only get $650. And that's one of the biggest downfalls about doing REO work is if you don't have volume, these properties will nickel and dime you to death. I mean, they'll run you ragged if you only get in a couple of properties. You need volume to make this business work. And the very next step, the very next task is going to be determine the occupancy. And that's where we have to physically go to the property, check it out, see if it's vacant, see if it's occupied, see if it's the owners that live in it, or see if it's tenant occupied, then go from there. And whether it's occupied or vacant is going to take us down a different road. If it's occupied, that's going to add months to the process, weeks and months to the process, because they have to do a formal eviction to get the people out. While they're doing the eviction process, they're generally going to offer them cash for keys. And cash for keys is where they offer money to vacate. In other words, we'll give you $2,000 to move out by such and such a date, and you have to leave the property in broom swept condition. They don't care about making repairs or fixing anything. It's just broom swept condition. In other words, to get the cash for keys, the occupants must clean the property out good enough where the bank doesn't have to spend any money having it trashed out. That's the biggest thing. So they're gonna offer them cash for keys. That will speed along the process. But in the meantime, they're gonna be doing the eviction process in case the occupants can't meet the deadline. That's in case it's occupied. Now, if it's vacant, generally what happens, like on this property, we're gonna rekey the property and that's it. Come in, take photos, not touch anything, not get rid of anything, no trash outs, nothing until they get their certificate of title. So we're gonna be in limbo until that time happens. That could be 10 days, that could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You never know, and it depends a lot on how busy the city is or the county, whoever has it. So here's an example where we have a property that has a ton of junk, debris, garbage left on it, and we have rekeyed the property, gone inside and took photos. There's nothing else at this time that we can do with the property. We can't have it trashed out, grass cut, nothing. And what really sucks about this process is what I run into all the time, and that has to do with code enforcement. This property has been flagged by code enforcement for all the debris and trash and stuff out around the property. In the back's even worse, which while I'll talk, I'll go ahead and show you that. So this property has been rekeyed, and at this point, that's all we can do. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to be doing my valuations. So I'm going to be doing my BPO, and they're going to be ordering an appraisal. And actually, I've already talked to the appraisal on this one, so that's already been ordered. So the values are being done right now before the property's trashed out and before the bank even gets their certificate of title. So that is helping the process speed along. But before they list this property, this is going to have to be trashed out. Now, a lot of these banks have third-party management companies that handle all the utilities, they handle the trash outs, they handle the lawn care, they handle all that so the agent doesn't have to. And honestly, for a REO listing agent, those are the best because I don't have to put out any money. But this client, like some other ones I have, we have to basically pay for everything out of our pocket, then get reimbursed. So once I get approval, I've got to get the utilities turned on. This house has electric, has water, and it has gas. All of those require deposits, which I have to pay myself. Then I'm gonna have to get probably, due to the price of this and how much junk's here, probably gonna have to get 3 different bids for a trash out because all these are gonna be several $1,000s because just how much junk is around here. I mean, this is a mess. While this is going on, we're gonna be getting bids. So once we get the certificate of title and I get the approval from the seller to move forward, we can go ahead and hopefully have bids ready and move forward with that. The faster that gets done, the faster the property can get listed. So that's kind of more or less the beginning of the process. Now, like I said earlier, if it is occupied, that takes us down a different road. And I hate it when properties are occupied because I know that's at least another month before the property's gonna get listed, and that's at least another month before the property gets sold. And I always want the properties to sell as fast as possible because I'm the one making monthly payments on the utilities, trash outs, waiting to get reimbursed, which takes weeks sometimes. As of right now, we still don't have the certificate of title. We're waiting on that. All values are done. Bids are being requested by different contractors. And once we get those in, we'll be ready and waiting on the seller. Once the seller gets their certificate of title and gives us the go-ahead, the first thing they're gonna do is approve the bids and we're gonna move forward with the trash out. So they'll do a trash out and a sales clean. Now, I doubt very seriously this client's gonna make any repairs because this house needs way too much. I mean, it's a mess. It needs a lot of work. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna sell this one as is. This is not going to qualify for any homeowner's insurance. Okay, so what are a couple reasons why the property can take longer than a lot of people think it should take before it's listed? One of the reasons is how they get their values. Now, if they get an appraisal, that takes time, and depending on their values is going to determine a big factor with the amount of time it takes. Because if they get values that are way, way off, say I came in at 100,000 and the appraiser came in at 300,000. Well, there's such a big discrepancy. They're either gonna have to order another value or they're gonna have to go back and look at what was given to them and spend more time and get investor approval. And that's the big issue. A lot of times they don't have the authority to put the list price. It has to come from the investor, and that can take time. So there's a bunch of different reasons, but Normally, one of the reasons why that doesn't affect the time frame is title. Most of these sellers do not have any title work done prior to listing it. And it's one of the things that drives me nuts, because a lot of times you have this property under contract, you've got your inspections done, you're a week from closing, and you find out there's some title issues that have to be rectified before they can close. Remember, one advantage of buying a foreclosure is that you're going to get clear title. You won't close until you get clear title, because they're going to give you a title policy. And they can't give you a title policy until everything on the title policy has been rectified and cleared. So buying a foreclosure, once it's bank owned, you are going to get clear title or you won't close. That is a huge benefit. But that's one of the factors that doesn't affect the time frame, because most of them don't have title work done prior. Some of them do, but majority don't. That's really about it for the process. Once they get their values in and they evaluate and figure out what list price, and they get approval for that, and they have their certificate of title, it's been trashed out, the next step is they're going to send a listing agreement out for signature. Once it's signed, we have generally 24 hours to get it listed in the MLS, put their specific comments, send them a copy of the MLS because they have to prove it. This is one reason why a lot of clients make us use better pictures than I really want to. I like showing exactly what the property looks like to save people time, but a lot of these clients, some of the bigger ones especially, are going to go through those photos and they're going to make us change them, take out bad ones and put pretty ones in. You know, it's like putting lipstick on a cow. It just doesn't work sometimes, but that's why a lot of people say, well, it looks so good in the pictures. It's because they make us do that. Also, the wording. You're not going to see a lot of times using the word foreclosure. That's generally forbidden in the MLS listing. They don't want anybody to know it's foreclosure. I think that's silly, because honestly, that probably gets more people going than anything, but that's their rule. So there's some of the reasons why the process can take a while. There's no rhyme or reason for it, and like I said, I wish these would come out very quickly, but a lot of times it takes weeks. A lot of approvals have to be made, and sometimes that just takes more time. I'm gonna stop the video right here because I did forget something that I wanna make sure I go over and explain. This is something very few people ever get to know about or hear about, but this happens. Someone asked me maybe a year ago, and I told them yes. And that has to do with clients, these foreclosure clients, filing insurance claims. And that's gonna happen if the property is in bad enough condition or needs repairs or meets any criteria on the questionnaires that they send out for us agents to fill out and submit. So while I was editing this video, right before I got ready to finish it up, I got an email concerning this exact matter. And I forgot all about it, and I thought, this is too good of info not to share with people. So what happens during the process, and this has no effect on the time frame the property will get listed. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's just something that's going on behind the scenes, and the listing agent has to be involved, because the listing agent has to provide this information to these companies that file these claims on behalf of the sellers. Here's the quick questionnaire that they send out, and it's very generic and very, very simple. So this is what the questionnaire looks like. Does it have vandalism, theft, fire damage, wind damage, water damage, mold, freezer damage, hail, lightning? If the property has any of these issues and we flag it as yes and send photos, then this corporate seller is going to file an insurance claim. That about does it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them below. Make sure and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. And like I said, if you need anything, just reach out. I'll be glad to help. As always, thank you. Have a great day.